The Quiet Life of Fern the Fox. In a wide green forest where tall oak trees stretched toward the sky and the wind whispered softly through the leaves, a tiny fox kit was born beneath the roots of an old fallen tree. Her name was Fern. Fern had soft red fur, a fluffy white-tipped tail, and curious golden eyes that always seemed to sparkle with wonder. She lived with her mother and two brothers in a cozy den hidden among moss and wildflowers. When Fern was very small, the world outside the den seemed huge and mysterious. She would peek out from the entrance and watch butterflies float through the air like tiny flying flowers. "Someday," Fern whispered to herself, "I will explore the whole forest." The first adventure. One bright morning, Fern's mother said, "Today you may come outside and explore, but stay close." Fern's ears perked up with excitement. She stepped carefully out of the den, her tiny paws touching the soft forest floor for the first time. Everything felt magical. Dew sparkled on blades of grass. Birds chirped cheerful songs from the branches above. A gentle breeze carried the smell of pine trees and fresh earth. Fern tried to pounce on a grasshopper. Boing! The grasshopper jumped away, and Fern tumbled forward into a pile of leaves. Her brothers laughed, but Fern laughed too. Exploring the forest was fun, even when she fell. Learning the ways of the forest. As the seasons passed, Fern grew stronger and smarter. Her mother taught her many important things. How to listen carefully for the tiny rustle of mice beneath the leaves. How to move quietly so no one could hear her coming. How to find sweet berries near the riverbank. And most importantly, how to respect the forest. "The forest is our home," her mother said gently. "Every creature here has a place." Fern remembered those words. Friends in the Woods. One evening, while wandering near a small creek, Fern heard a splash. She crept closer and saw a young beaver trying to carry a stick much bigger than himself. Fern tilted her head. "Need help?" she asked. The beaver puffed his cheeks. "I'm building a dam, but this stick is too heavy." Fern grabbed one end with her teeth. Together, they dragged the stick to the water. "Thank you," said the beaver. "My name is Bramble." "I'm Fern," she said proudly. From that day on, Fern and Bramble became friends. They would sit beside the creek at sunset, watching the sky turn orange and pink, while dragonflies zipped across the water. A wise old owl. High in an ancient pine tree lived Olren the Owl, the wisest animal in the forest. Every night, he watched the woods with big golden eyes. One evening, Fern climbed a hill and saw Olren perched on a branch. "Hello," Fern said politely. "Hello, little fox," hooted Olren. Fern asked, "You see everything from up there. What is the most important thing in the forest?" Olren blinked slowly. "The most important thing," he said, "is balance. Hunters and helpers, big and small. Everyone must respect one another." Fern thought about that for a long time. She wanted to be a good fox, one who respected the forest. The long winter. When Fern was nearly grown, winter arrived. Snow covered the forest like a thick white blanket. Food became harder to find. Some animals slept through the cold months. Others traveled far away. but foxes stayed. Fern had to use everything she learned. She listened for mice beneath the snow. Pounce! Her paws would break through the snow, and sometimes she caught dinner. Other times she missed and tumbled headfirst into a snowdrift, but she never gave up. On very cold nights, Fern curled her fluffy tail around herself like a warm blanket beneath the old tree roots. She dreamed of spring. Spring returns. One morning, the forest began to change. Snow melted into sparkling streams. Tiny green leaves returned to the trees. Birds sang louder than ever. Spring had arrived. Fern ran through the woods, feeling the warm sun on her fur. She visited Bramble at the creek. The beaver dam had grown huge. "You did it," Fern said. Bramble grinned proudly. "Lots of hard work." They laughed and watched fish swim through the clear water. A brave rescue. Later that summer, Fern heard frightened squeaks coming from a bush. She pushed through the leaves and found a baby rabbit stuck between tangled branches. The little rabbit's eyes were wide with fear. "Don't worry," Fern said softly. Very carefully, she tugged the branches apart with her teeth. Snap! The rabbit hopped free. "Thank you," the rabbit squeaked before bounding away. Fern smiled. Helping others made her feel warm inside. Growing into a forest guardian. Years passed, and Fern became one of the most graceful foxes in the forest. Her fur glowed bright red in the sunlight. Her steps were silent and swift. Young fox kits often watched her in awe. Sometimes Fern would show them how to listen for mice beneath the leaves. Other times she told them stories about the forest. "Respect every creature," she would say, remembering Olren's wisdom. The circle of life. One golden autumn evening, Fern climbed the hill where she once spoke with the old owl. The forest stretched endlessly before her. Leaves danced through the air like little flames. She could hear the creek flowing, birds singing, and wind whispering through the trees. Olren the Owl landed quietly beside her. "You have grown wise, Fern," he said. Fern smiled softly. "The forest taught me." They sat together, watching the sunset paint the sky with colors of gold, pink, and purple. Fern realized something wonderful. The forest was not just a place she lived, it was part of her. Every tree, every stream, every creature, big or small, was connected. And Fern the fox would always protect and respect the beautiful woods she called home. And so, under the quiet stars and the rustling leaves, the life of Fern the fox continued, full of adventures, friendships, and the gentle magic of the forest. The end.